Today we will be taking a trip to the region of the planet known as the South China Sea, to have a look at an ancient culture in Cambodia and the wondrous temples that were built at Angkor Wat. In the 1800s, France was, in many ways, attempting to emulate Britain with world conquests. And with their naval power and quite a few men with rifles, they took over a vast area that would become known as French Indochina. And these conquests included Vietnam, Laos, Thailand, and Cambodia. The French remained in power of these regions until the 1950s, when resistance from the native inhabitants made it impossible for the French to continue with their rule of the area, and they packed up and headed back to Gay Paris, which led to the United States sticking their nose in the area. But that's a story for another day altogether. Today we will be focusing our attention on the ancient Cam culture within Cambodia and their centuries-long rule of vast areas of these lands and the monumental structures they built, one of which is the largest temple structure on the entire planet. In Cambodia stands the largest religious monument on the planet, and it is known as Angkor Wat. The Cam dynasty was the dominant force in the region for centuries, and the peoples of this land are known as the Khmer. As with most areas or regions anywhere in the world, there is always one group which desires to control another group, whether it be the Egyptians against the Phoenicians or the feudal skirmishes between different city-states in Europe. There always seems to be one group that wants to control another. And Cambodia was no different. There had been regional feudal conflicts in this area of the world for centuries, and it wasn't until 802 when the ruler known as Jaya Bauman united all of the feudal kingdoms into one great kingdom, with he himself elevated to the rank of the supreme emperor, King of Kings. He was to be worshipped by the people as a living god. He abandoned the capital city in the eastern portion of Cambodia and ordered his subjects to cross the Mekong River in a great march to the west. He chose the lush land between the sacred hills and the great lake for his new citadel. Over the next 500 years, Jayavarmans, descendants and living gods as well, succeeded him to reign in Angkor. Each of these kings had a monument built to his glory, destined to become his mausoleum. Dating as far back as the 2nd century, the Kumars had practiced Hinduism, and each of the royal temples is modeled on the 5 peaks of Mount Meru, the home of the Indian gods. For their builders, these shrines were a celebration of religion, art, science, and power. But there was no clear described pathway for the ruling line until the rediscovery of Angkor Wat by the French naturalist Henry Mouhot in 1860. Over the course of many years, archaeologists and researchers peeled back the overgrown layers of jungle and found a monumental structure, one vastly larger than originally conceived. The temples were elaborate in decoration and intricate in design. The walls were covered with relief carvings depicting all forms of everyday life, as well as grandiose depictions of the rulers. And amongst these many carvings were texts written in both the traditional Cambodian language, but also in Sanskrit, the priestly language of the Hindus. And it was the deciphering of these text panels that the lineage and history of Angkor Wat emerged. And what a history it was. Between the 9th and 15th centuries, a total of 38 kings ruled their empire from Angkor Wat, with its borders reaching from southern Vietnam to Laos, and from the Mekong River to eastern Burma. But their greatest ruler was Giovanna, who ruled between 1181 and 1219. Much like his Egyptian counterpart Ramses, Giovanna was a builder, and he expanded not only Angkor Wat, but also built an entirely new holy city known as Angkor Thom. This new city had a footprint comparable to Manhattan Island and was a walled city surrounded by canals and moats, a truly monumental undertaking. In 1296, a Chinese diplomat visited Angkor and kept a diary of his observations. What he described was a civilization and population far in excess of any European city of that time. London at this time had a population of perhaps 30,000, and Angkor is estimated to have had a population in excess of 100,000, and some estimates claim a population of up to 150,000. Though the Chinese diplomat did harbor prejudice towards any populace not of Chinese descent as being barbarians, he did take note of their magnificent structures and the well-planned layout with its centralized water system and extensive irrigation required for the huge fields of rice paddies that surrounded the entire area. Research has indicated that although Giovanna was the greatest builder of all of the Khmer kings, he may well have been the beginnings of the eventual downfall of the entire system, because it was he who transitioned the Khmer people from the Hindu religion to Buddhism. And as a result of this shift, the king was no longer venerated as a living god, and the populace, many of whom were a part of the administration and maintenance of the vast system that kept Angkor functioning, began to falter and over time completely fail. Other factors such as drought could have also played a major role in the eventual abandonment of the site by the people and the rulers. The once great site was eventually abandoned and the capital was again moved, this time east to be closer to the Mekong River, and over time Angkor Wat was swallowed up by the jungle. And it wasn't until 1860 when French naturalist Henry Mouhot stumbled upon the site while searching for rare insects that the site re-emerged into the public consciousness and work began to understand and rehabilitate the site. There have been periods of time when work at the site was completely shut down as a result of conflict and war in the region. And during the 50s and 60s, the communist-led Khmer Rouge forces halted all work at the Angkor site, not to be rekindled until the 1980s. And since then, the very slow process of reconstruction has been taking place and work at the site has been ongoing. And it has become a major tourist attraction for people from all over the world. I should very much like to thank you all for joining us on this tale, and I hope it was enjoyable to you all. Please take the time to like and subscribe, as this helps us a great deal in continuing to put forth our content. Again, thank you all so very much. This is Professor Poppycock signing off.